Let me ask you about some other issues. I did this when Representative Castro was here, kind of did a game show speed round at the end, went through a portfolio of issues that if he were in Congress, he would have to deal with. And so let me give you kind of quick issues and give me your quick take on them. If you were in Congress today, these would come before you. Let's give people a sense of where you come down on these issues if you can.
Okay.
The proposed repeal by the Republicans of the Affordable Care Act, what they call Obamacare, for repealing or not?
No. And I'll tell you why.
So no repeal?
No, it would, right now it would negatively. There was a thing called the donut hole where people were left out, and it fixed that. And it also provided, you know, for kids who are older than 18 and up to, you know, as they hit 25, you can stay on your parents' insurance for a little longer.
Yep.
There's some good parts of that that I would like to keep.
So more good than bad?
Well, I mean, on balance, I mean, I would think there's more good than bad, but I do think that there's some bad parts that definitely need some work.
Okay. Should we bomb Iran?
The parent in me would.
But I love where this is going.
Would be aghast. I mean, I understand that there are certain risks that have to be taken. But I would make sure that I had looked under every rock and through every nook and cranny to make sure that every diplomatic effort had been exhausted, every last sanction had been done,
right.
Every last ally had been called in. That is something that has such tremendous risk and repercussions, and not only on an international level, but on a deeply personal level for people who have sons and daughters.
And we've sent a lot, Texas has sent a lot of folks into the last two wars. Yeah.
You know, one of the things I make it a point to do is to go to the funerals of servicemen and women in the district that I represent, and I've been to too many.
Yeah. So you would say really exhaust every conceivable.
You get to a point where there's, you know, you got to do what you got to do.
Is it enough for Iran to pose a threat to Israel and not directly to the United States? Would that, do you make a distinction between the two? Or is Israel effectively the 51st state with regard to what's in our national interest?
I think Israel is incredibly important in our national interest. I think we have a commitment. The most important thing a person has is their word. And I think that works in international relations as well. We've given our word.
Right.
And we're out there on a limb. If you didn't intend to do it, you shouldn't have said it.
Do you agree with Secretary Panetta and the President, who within the last 10 days announced a date certain when they intend to have our troops out of Afghanistan? Republicans have criticized the President and the administration for telegraphing to our enemies when we intend to leave. This was the same criticism made of Iraq. So are you with the President and the Secretary of Defense on getting out of Afghanistan on a date certain?
You know, the problem with Washington is that no matter what you do, you're going to get hit.
Right. And
you're going to get hit by people. People will say something yesterday, and today there'll be a 180. So you do what they want, and they still criticize you for
whatever. That's not a flip-flop, that's evolution.
You know.
Come on.
So I will tell you, I take all of those criticisms with a grain of salt. I assume, you know, the Secretary of Defense has access to information that you and I don't have, that the average voter doesn't have.
Right.
And I am not one who questions patriotism. I think that they understand that these are our kids. I think that they understand that you know, our nation's national security is at stake. And so I think they make their decisions in good faith, and I think that good faith deserves some deference.
We've already talked a little bit about raising taxes on wealthy individuals, which is a sort of another rebranding of let's get rid of the Bush tax cuts. But the President has specifically gone there with the Buffett rule and said that we need to look at asking wealthy individuals to put in their fair share and help us out of the economic mess we're in. So where do you come down on that?
I mean, if you look at it just from a common sense perspective, I mean, Warren Buffett makes more money in a minute than most people make in a year. All right. Now, really,
I hope I made in a year how much he made in a minute.
Should his secretary be in a higher tax bracket than he is? That's the fundamental question. I mean, to me, there's...
You know that, Representative, you know that it's more complicated than that.
Well, I live in Alpine, and the reason that I'm frustrated is because people tell me it's more frustrated than that. It's more complicated than that. Because I think the general population says, look, there's a reasonable middle here. There's a reasonable,
right.
It shouldn't be more complicated. You should have a principle, and then you should build your legislation around achieving those goals. And those goals, I think, are people-centric. I think they're things that fundamentally everybody will understand. Everybody will coalesce around.
Right.
If you can get past this idea.